Welcome to week number 5 of the high school football season. We are halfway through the regular season.
Incredible.
Tony, I can't believe it.
And it feels like week 1, doesn't it? It's going to be like 90 degrees on Friday night. So we're at week 5. It doesn't feel like week 5, but yeah, we're at the halfway point. Of course, everybody has the 9 regular season games and then guaranteed 1 district game, so that's 10. And yeah, we've reached the halfway point. It goes by quicker every year, it
You're
seems
right.
like.
Hot Friday night this week, but boy, we've had some nice nights so far this football season. Big Central Bank KRCG tailgate at Jefferson City High this week, where the 2-2 Jays will host St. Louis University High. Free hot dogs, free t-shirts, and more. We'll have the former Lincoln Blue Tiger coach Mike Jones coming in. He's the head coach at SLU this year.
And of course, those many years at Lincoln University, it's going to be a little bit odd, isn't it? To have him across the road from Lincoln, where he spent several years. And I tell you what, Lincoln University's field looks great, obviously, with the new turf and the new scoreboard, and they've, power washed the bleachers. The new student rec center, I got to tour that over the summer with John Mosley, the athletic director. What a beautiful place that is. And I think you really have to give Mike Jones a lot of credit for, helping, change the perception of Lincoln football, really getting people excited, getting donations going to Lincoln University. It did not work out for Mike as far as wins and losses were concerned, and that's why he's not the coach there anymore. It's the way it goes in this business, but still, Mike Jones really had a big hand, I think, in helping get people excited again about Lincoln University football.
Maybe the most important thing he did was off the field was get the kids to stay in school.
Right.
He graduated seniors from the university, which hadn't happened in years. He was having senior classes of 10, 15, 20 graduate on a normal year. It used to be that very few of them made it all the way through. So, yeah, big tribute to Mike Jones. And it'll be good to have him back in the capital city and playing the Jays. And for Jeff City, Tony, I think a better chance to win this game than last week, of course, against the #1 team from Arkansas, Harbor, a 38-0 loss. But this is a competition a little bit more on the level Jeff City can play.
I think you were at that game Friday night and waiting around for the Jays to really push something offensively, and it really never happened. They really couldn't get much going. But this is a team that, as you mentioned, more on par with Jefferson City, St. Louis University High. Really a big game for Jefferson City. You got to find a way to win this game because the last 4 weeks of the schedule are not easy. You have back-to-back road games at Rockbridge. We know how good Rockbridge is this year. Then a third trip of the season to St. Louis. That'll be week 7, going to CBC, which is ranked #2 in the state this week. Tough. And then the back-to-back home games to end the year, Battle and Rockhurst. So it is very difficult these last 4 weeks. This is an important game, really, I think, for Jefferson City.
In a way, a must-win for Ted LePage and the Jays to salvage something out of this season. Of course, all those games are winnable, too, those 4 that you talked about, but all of them will be very, very tough. Pair of big matchups in Columbia this week. The Rockbridge Bruins host Hickman, the traditional rivalry game. Rockbridge coming off their first loss of the season at Lee Summit. The Bruins are 3-1. Hickman 0-4 after that loss to Hallsville last week. Rockbridge stays atop our Mid-Missouri Prep Power Poll by process of elimination, I guess, right, Tony?
Really, who else were you going to put up there? The top 3 teams in the Power Poll in the large schools all lost in week 4.
Rockbridge, Battle, and
Jefferson City, they're all still ranked. In fact, Rockbridge and Battle stayed 1 and 2. The Jays fell to #5. But yeah, Rockbridge, slip up on the road last week. They'll get back on track, I think, this week against Hickman. Hickman, we've been saying the last few weeks they'd been playing better, but my goodness, Hallsville really took it to them in week 4, 49-7. A lot of defensive touchdowns, 3 of them in that game for Hallsville. So, Hickman probably not very happy about that. They may have a little bit to prove coming into this game, but Rockbridge is the better team, more talented team.
It would sure seem that way. Hickman playing with a backup quarterback last week against Hallsville, and the Crusaders certainly took advantage of that. Over at Battle High, Tony, the Spartans, they will host Hallsville. Interesting matchup. These teams are both 2-2. Battle. Have they ever lost 2 games in a row?
It's been a couple of years. They actually
been a while.
They actually did at the end of the 2015 season. It actually happened the last 2 weeks. They were 7-0. They lost, I think it was at Jefferson City, week 8, and then they went home and lost a close game to Hannibal, week 9. They followed that up by, they went to the state semifinals after that, so they were fine. But coming off those 2 straight losses, of course, very different losses to Rockbridge, that defensive battle, a 9-0 game, and then on the road at Vianney last week, gave up 52 points in a loss to the defending Class 5 state champions. Be fair to Battle, it's the 2nd straight year they gave up 52 points to Vianney. Of course, last year they scored 55 and they won the game. This year they didn't quite have enough. But yeah, interesting matchup. Yeah, Battle, they haven't had many losing streaks. And Hallsville coming off a very dominant win over Hickman. And kind of a fun stat for the Helias Crusaders, they play all 4 Columbia teams, of course,
sure do,
on their schedule.
With Tolton in there,
and they play them 4 weeks in a row.
Okay.
And this is game number 2. They played Hickman. They've got Battle this week. They go to Tolton next Friday night, and then week 7 is the home game, the homecoming game against Rockbridge. This is the Columbia stretch for the Crusaders.
It's a very interesting schedule, isn't it? That's going to change a lot next year and the years past that.
With the new conference,
Right, for Helias. And I still hold out that Helias has shown signs of being a pretty good football team, very good defensively. They played well on defense every week. They played well in the first half every week. But their schedule was tough. Those 2 losses to Hannibal, when Hannibal was playing pretty well early in the season, and then the one at Belleville-Altough, who's a very good team in Illinois. That 2-2 is, and then the 2 wins against weaker teams, obviously. But this, again, is a battle's going to be a tough one for them, too.
This will be a tough one. Again, the 2 wins, teams you expected them to beat. You know, the 2 losses, as you mentioned, Belleville, they could have easily won that game. Hannibal, that really seemed to turn on the lightning delay.
It sure did.
Helias was up a couple scores there, but Helias, yeah, I mean, they have the looks of a team that can be pretty good. And this will be, you know, again, a key test battle. You wouldn't normally think you'd, you know, favor the Crusaders in a contest like that, but the Spartans, they've lost 2 in a row. You never know. Maybe they can go up there and pull off an upset.
We will see. We'll be there Friday night. Blair Oaks, #1 on our prep power poll at Hallsville this week. Blair Oaks coming off a big win over Eldon, a game that you were at, and we thought that would be a very tough challenge for them with the freshman quarterback playing. But Blair Oaks, as I've told people, never count them out. When they're down, there's obstacles in front of them. Somehow Blair Oaks Falcon football finds a way.
Nolan who? Just kidding. We love Nolan. We know Nolan Hare's an excellent quarterback, and, you know, look to having him back, you know, hopefully for district time. But Cade Stockman stepped up, really passed the test, threw 3 touchdown passes for him. There was a long stretch. They scored on the first possession, didn't score again until the final seconds of the first half. There was a long stretch when the offense, you know, it wasn't kind of up to par what you would expect for Blair Oaks. They struggled a little bit to get things going, but you expect that with a freshman quarterback. He still made several big plays, and, you know, Blair Oaks defensively, to hold Eldon to 12 points, you know what you're going to get out of Blair Oaks on the defensive side. They're going to be very good. So, you know, really, you need Cade Stockman to be good. You don't need him necessarily to be great. As long as he's good and can make a few plays for you every game, Blair Oaks probably just keeps on rolling.
And the difference here, Steve Sampson is the offensive coordinator over there at Blair Oaks. He kept it simple. And that's Terry Walker did too. And they did just what they needed to do to win a football game. And by golly, they did. So they go up to Hallsville this week. Hallsville coming off of a loss. I'm trying to think. No, they actually beat Southern Boone.
Yeah, one on the road there.
So they're 3-1.
Hallsville is 3-1. The only loss to Osage, and playing well. Hallsville is, but this is going to be a very difficult test. Really, the toughest team Hallsville played this year was Osage week 3, and Osage won that game somewhat handily. So Hallsville, kind of a more difficult schedule here.
Tough one for them. Also in Boone County, Centralia, they are 4-0, still #2 in our local prep power poll for small schools on the road this week at South Shelby. Tom Leffler has a story this week on the Centralia football program, now under the direction of Jim Newstead, who took over for the retiring Earl Bennett. Not much has changed in Centralia. They just keep winning, playing good, solid football. South Callaway heads to Montgomery County after losing the Callaway Cup game to North Callaway last week. The Bulldogs are 3-1, still a very good team, falling out of the state poll. The Thunderbirds from North Callaway pulled off that upset, improving to 3-1, and the T-Birds are in the state poll for the first time in a while, tied for 10th in Class 2. And Tony, that was certainly one of the most exciting games we have had this season on a football Friday night. North beating South for the Callaway Cup. And
that ended, I think, about a 7-game winning streak for South Callaway in that rivalry. And, you know, it was back and forth, and to the end of the game, really, South Callaway scored, I believe, with just over a minute left in the game to take the lead. And it took North Callaway 20 seconds after that to come right back down and score the game-winning touchdown. And North Callaway, you know, 3-1. The only loss was week 1, a 3-point game to Southern Boone, and another one of those week 1 games that had the lightning delays and were interrupted there. But, you know, North Callaway coming off a very good season last year and off to a 3-1 start. And you look at their schedule the rest of the year, they really have a chance to, I think, pile up quite a few victories this season.
I really think that game does well for both teams. I think it helps South Callaway in that they were riding high. They know they can be beat now. I don't expect them to get beat much more at all.
I don't know if they lose again this regular season. I'd be very surprised.
And North Callaway, meanwhile, they needed the confidence to know they can beat a good team in South Callaway. And like you said, their schedule pans out well for them too. So
it does.
There won't be too many losses for those Callaway County teams, will there?
they're going to be rolling along for the rest of the regular season at least.
Fun teams to watch. Other games of interest this week to watch: Boonville at Mexico. Tony, Mexico, you were there this week watching them practice, and that was a huge victory for them to beat Hannibal last Friday night at Hannibal.
On the road, a place where in the regular season they hadn't won a game there since 2004. I believe Steve Hague told me it was about 2 or 3 years ago they won a district game up there in the district semifinal round. But yeah, to go up there, and Hannibal's been the team in the NCMC for a lot of years, and you know, it's no surprise to see them in the state rankings, near the top of the state rankings on a regular basis. That's a huge, you know, confidence builder for Mexico. They've won 3 in a row now, coming off that week 1 game against Battle, where they really took it on the chin, and you know, we all know what happened there, but Mexico has rolled on since then. And yeah, Boonville this week, that's a good game. And then I believe I want to say it's the following week. I have to make sure of this, but Mexico and Centralia play. I believe it's week 6, so that's going to be a big game.
Oh my gosh.
Mexico, if they can win that game, that'd be, I know Mexico's a bigger school than Centralia, but still, Centralia's gotten Mexico a couple times over the last few years. That could be a good one. Back
and forth to Steve Hague, and I know you did too, the Mexico football coach. You know, I was telling him what a great win that was at Hannibal. He wasn't buying that. He says there's a lot more games on the schedule before you can put us into that elite category there. Yeah. So he's taking it one at a time.
You still got to play the likes of Centralia. You still got to play, you know, Moberly, who's won a couple of games playing better. Got to play Fulton. You know, Fulton's 1-3.
That's a rivalry game.
It's still a big rivalry game. So a lot of big ones left on the schedule. Yeah, he's not going to look too far ahead.
Good luck to Mexico, though. Osage at Southern Boone, a tri-county contest. Osage comes in at 3-1. Southern Boone falling to 2-2 after losing to Hallsville last week. So interesting game there in Ashland.
Yeah, Osage is not ranked in our Mid-Missouri Prep Power Poll, but I think if you look at our rankings, there are about 3 other teams outside the rankings that you could argue belong in that top 5. Osage is 3-1, and that one loss, we talked about it earlier in this year. They lost to Seneca 27-7. We wondered about that. Well, look at the state rankings this week. Seneca's 4-0 and number 6 in Class 3. Okay. So you look at that loss now, and it puts it a little bit more into perspective. Okay, that was a pretty good team that Osage went up there.
We didn't know at the time, did we?
So Osage is rolling along. I think they are, at this point, the top threat to Blair Oaks in the Tri-County Conference. That's a Week 7 game at the Lake. Yeah. To me, that determines the Tri-County champion, in my opinion. Southern Boone, too. Southern Boone's one of those teams I probably expected them to be a little bit better than 2-2 at this point. 2 very close victories, and then the loss at Eldon, a close loss to Hallsville last week, but you know, 9 wins a year ago with all those seniors coming back. I think expected them to be a little bit better. But again, you still have a second half of the football season.
Absolutely.
Maybe they'll get rolling here.
Yep, looking for Ashland and Southern Boone to play even better. California at Eldon. The Mustangs lost for the first time last week. We talked about that game at Blair Oaks. And this is an Eldon team that hopes to bounce right back and get back in the win column this week.
And this will be a very tough game for California, as will the rest of the game for the Pintos. Eldon, again, they were in that game with Blair Oaks. They were down a score in the 4th quarter. So it's not like, you know, Blair Oaks pulled away late to win that game, but Eldon still got plenty of talent. It'll be interesting to see California. You look at California's Week 2 game. They played at Mexico, lost that game 28-14. Okay,
right.
That was the high water mark for California in terms of points scored in a game. They've not scored more than 14 points in a game this season. The 28 is the most they've given up this season. The other 3 games, 20 points or less. So there haven't been a lot of points scored in those California games this year. They're playing some defense.
Got to find some ways to score.
They got to find some ways to score points, which their first 2 Tri-County Conference games against Warsaw and Versailles. So you still have the rest of the schedule is going to be very difficult for California.
Right, that will be tough. All right, well, that game at Eldon this week, so we'll watch that one too. Other games we'll have for you on a Football Friday night, the Fulton Hornets at home hosting the Marshall Owls, the Gasconade County Bowl, Owensville at Herman. The Bearcats come in at 3-1 there. Versailles on the road at Warsaw. Pretty good chance for the Tigers to pick up another win at Warsaw. And a good Westran team heads to Fayette this week to face the Falcons. Of course, we'll have all the scores and highlights for you on Football Friday night. Tony will be in Columbia at the Battle Elias game.
Elias game. That'll be, again, very interesting. Don't know how that'll play out. Both teams 2-2. losing 2 in a row, might be a little bit mad about that.
You'll have a preview of that at 6 o'clock. We'll have Josh Kurlak over at the Rockbridge Hickman game at
Providence
the home
Bowl,
of the Bruins,
yes.
Providence Bowl there, and I will be at Jeff City High School for our Central Bank KRCG tailgate. Don't forget to stop by and say hi, pick up a lot of freebies there, a lot of fun, and then we'll have all the scores and highlights. 10:15 football Friday night. We'll see you then.